Welcome to Chester at the end of the second day of the Lombard RAC, and at this halfway stage in the rally, the battle for the World Drivers' Championship is absolutely neck and neck. Last night, Dyfan was in the lead. Tonight, it's the Spanish driver, Carlos Sainz. Hello to all night owls and insomniacs at the end of day 2 of this rally, a day marked by the fiercest competition and some fearsome speeds on some of the toughest rally stages anywhere in the world. The lead changed hands in less than 5 times, ending up with Carlos Sainz fractionally ahead of the Lanciers of Didier Auriol and Dyfan. The bad news for British fans is that 3 British drivers, Malcolm Wilson, Gwyndaf Evans and David Llewellyn, are out of the rally for good, but Colin McRae is still there at number 4 and very well placed for tomorrow's battle. Day 2 took the cars west into the Forest of Wales, and of course it's in the forest that this rally is won or lost. 12 special stages, totalling some 125 miles of mud and gravel, and we pick up the action in the darkness and the drizzle at Klog. The Welsh forests are demanding at the best of times, but after heavy rain and in the dark, they become a nightmare. The overnight leader, Kankanen, chose the path of caution rather than speed, but still managed to hang on to his number 1 position. Young Colin McRae, after his stunning performance on the first day, couldn't quite sustain the challenge of champion Sainz, who recaptured the number 2 position. None of the drivers enjoyed the early morning introduction to the bleak Welsh weather. Most of them preferred to keep their thoughts to themselves. But Kankanen perhaps summed up their collective feelings.
How was that, Juha?
What was Carlos?
Slippery. Are you glad to be in the forest?
It's okay, but still a bit slippery, so it takes for a while to get used to again this muddy road.
Did you beat Carlos there?
I don't know.
Yes, 3 seconds.
3 seconds?
Well, after Kleinong, just 54 seconds separated the top 10 drivers. So fierce was the competition, despite the difficult conditions. Then, as the sky lightened, they moved on to Aberhynant, where Alan Douglas takes up the story.
With the approach of daylight, the drivers could see more clearly where they were going, but the conditions were getting worse. The morning rain had produced mud, but Sainz was charging. With his brake discs glowing on one stage, he was 7 seconds faster than Kankanen. On Hafren, he assumed control at the head of the field, 17 seconds ahead of Kankanen. But there was a new threat from the Lancia of Didier Auriol. He'd climbed steadily up the field and was now challenging Sainz, just 2 seconds behind. Kankanen had no apparent mechanical problems, but his times were slipping. He'd lost the lead and was quite simply off his previous pace. Colin McRae, though, couldn't have been going better. On the 3rd stage of the day, he set fastest time, 5 seconds quicker than Sainz and 12 seconds ahead of Kankanen. Yet he admitted the conditions were awful. For 2 stages, he was overall leader. Kenneth Eriksson's exhaust on his Mitsubishi was hanging off, and he'd been slowed by a puncture. Now the turbo was causing concern. The conditions were just what Ari Vatanen had expected. He said what was required was confidence in the car on the slippery tracks. His policy paid off. He crept up to 6th overall. This is the twice world champion Mickey Biasion, making only his 2nd attempt on the RAC after 3rd place last year. Marco Allen has a wealth of experience, and he was full of praise for the efforts of teammate McRae at the head of the field. Colin is really flying, he said. It's incredible. This is the former world champion Timo Salonen in the 4-wheel drive Mitsubishi. David Llewellyn clung on in the top 10 and only just got through the Hafren stage with a broken drive shaft. And misfortune for the other British hopes. On home ground, Gwyndaf Evans had engine problems and was continuing to modify the Ford's bodywork. It was a bad day too for Malcolm Wilson. He stopped in the middle of Hafren with seized transmission after a spin and was forced to retire.
Well, after stage 14, the leaderboard looked like this. Carlos Sainz still just ahead of the 2 Lanciers and Colin McRae, and now more than 30 seconds adrift. It's now about 1 o'clock, and the cars moved on to stage 16 at Dyfan.
The classic Welsh stages in mid-afternoon, and the conditions were ideal for Oriol. Fast sweeping corners let the Lancia really open up, and it was reflected in his stage times. On Dyfan Main, he was 14 seconds faster, gaining almost a second a mile on Kankkunen in an identical car. After 2 stages, he took over the leadership. Carlos Sainz was annoyed at the 4th leadership change of the day. He'd found the conditions treacherous, but was happy with his tyre choice. Lying third, Kankkunen watched with interest the battle at the front. He consistently set second fastest times on the mid-afternoon stages. Colin McRae continued to have the drive of his life. Another fastest time delighted the fans, but his earlier spin had set him firmly behind the leaders. And threatening him from behind was Mickey Biession, ready to take advantage of any other error by the Flying Scotsman. 2 major setbacks for other British hopes, and ironically both Welshmen on home ground. 31-year-old Welsh farmer David Llewellyn saw his first RAC rally for Nissan end on the 16th stage after a fault in the main electrical cutout switch. The crew took half an hour to find the problem and retired over their time limit. And the popular bus driver Gwyndaf Evans suffered his 3rd crash of the day on the same stage shortly after the start. The car was too badly damaged to continue. So just how bad were the conditions in Wales? Let's watch with the Top Gear camera on board the Mitsubishi of Timo Salonen. Just outside the top 10, RAC regular Lasse Lampi was one of a host of Scandinavians chasing the honours. Another was Hannu Mikkola, the last man to win the event in successive years. He was lying 13th in the Mazda. Mark Duez of Belgium followed just over a minute later. And the young Finn Tommi Mäkinen had had his adventures. Punctures, a series of spins and continuing gearbox problems in the Mazda, but still 16th overall. The other British contenders among the leaders, 23-year-old Scot Robbie Head, had completed 1 stage in 3rd gear after breaking the gearbox. He'd had punctures, but was still chasing the Group N Showroom Class Awards in his Cosworth. And the top lady driver, Louise Aiken-Walker, lost time when she stopped to help Malcolm Wilson after his breakdown, but held on to 18th overall. She'd done a hard day's work in Wales, and it hadn't been easy.
Absolute a nightmare.
Why?
It's such a good stage. It's such a good stage to drive on, and you're going no problem. And then all of a sudden, just this grease will hit you on one corner and just cuts you out, you know.
So, with half the day over, the leader changed hands yet again. Carlos Sainz was now squeezed in a real Lancia sandwich between Didier Auriol and Juha Kankkunen. Colin had dropped off the pace a bit, but he was still considerably faster than his illustrious teammates Ari Vatanen and Marco Alen in the same machinery, of course. So that brings us to about 4:30 and the first of the Penmachno stages. Alan Douglas again.
The final stages proved disastrous for Auriol. He'd held the lead for 4 stages, but a spin on the second last cost him the overnight lead. That went to Carlos Sainz, who now rests overnight in Chester with a 12-second advantage. And the final stages were unlucky for Kankkunen. His front differential broke.
The car understeering and I go a little off the road and I come back, and after I say okay, it's too much difficult, it's too easy to do big mistake here with the mud, and I prefer to try to finish for this evening.
We broke the front differential, 3 stages ago, and we lost quite a lot of time on that stage to Carlos, and we changed it, but it cost us 6 seconds, it's 1 second per 1 minute. Yeah. So, but now we are 30 seconds behind only, so it's still not so bad.
Will you get it back, do you think?
Maybe I will try.
Dear, what happened, Mickey?
I rolled.
How long were you off the road?
Then 2-3 laps. Okay, it's happened.
So how much time have you lost?
I retired.
You're out?
Yes, the car is out.
Oh dear, very sorry to lose you.
long day. No, okay, we have only one puncture and we ran 1 kilometer only. It was 1 kilometer to the end of one stage, so we didn't lose so much time and everything is working okay.
It's been a very close battle, hasn't it, today?
It has been, yeah, and still it will be.
So here's the leaderboard at the end of day 2. Just 32 seconds separates the top 3 drivers. Then Colin McRae, I'm sure, can't wait to be reseeded to 4th starter. But just look at those cars. 1 Toyota, 2 Lancias, 3 Subarus, 2 Mitsubishis. Talk about the dominance of the Japanese. Now, I've got Russell Brooks with me here again this evening. Russell, is that a shape of things to come in the 90s?
I think so, yes. I mean, rallying is the sport where they're going to demonstrate the cars they make. And they're putting a lot into it. I mean, don't forget, Toyota, for instance, spent £15 million on their World Championship team. It's a lot of money.
As much as that? I know you've been wandering around today talking to some of your mates. What is the gossip in the service areas?
Well, the technical battle is almost as interesting as the driver battle. I mean, last year it was shock absorbers and tyres. This year, hush hush, is secret fuels and designer fuels. Yes. They have optimum fuels to get the very best out of the engines, and the scrutineers have been out taking test samples, but I've seen a few team managers going around with worried looks on their faces, but I think it's heading very close to the wind, you know, on the regulations.
So better fuels means more power, of course?
A lot more power. Of course, sometimes it reads across to ordinary road cars. I mean, if you get a lot more horsepower in a rally car, of course, in an ordinary road car you could have the same horsepower for using less fuel, so there are benefits to everybody, really.
And finally, what about Colin McRae? How important is reseeding tomorrow at number 4?
Very much so. I don't think the times tell you how good his drive was today. Tomorrow he's reseeded to number 4 on the road. I think he's going to be well ahead of the rest of the field. I think he'll win the rally. Stuck
your neck out there, Russell. Thank you very much indeed. Well, if you want to stay in touch with the rally before we come on the air, of course, you've got Radio 5 with bulletins on the hour every hour. You've got CFAX on page 381 and our own, very own hotline on 0898 448845. That's 0898 448845. That's all for tonight. Back tomorrow at 7:35 and 5 to midnight. Just 2 last thoughts. Francine, the winner of the Radio Times Rally Quest competition, is still in the rally at number 103 out of 120 odd runners. And here's a glimpse of the talented Malcolm Wilson at work in his office.
60, danger left max logs. 60, danger easy left logs. 30, flat right, 40 over kink, fast right long plus. Hairpin left. 60 over crest. Flat right 20. Flat left 80. Flat right long opens. Right max past junction. And